This is my first video doing a Devonian New Albany shale fossil hunting video, and I'm kind of doing a rundown of where you might be able to find fossils, what you need to look for, and your best areas to find them. So when you're looking, you want to make sure you're looking in a creek, just because when you have the New Albany shale exposed to air, it tends to oxidize a lot quicker, and this layer is very oxidation prone. But when you are in a creek, you tend to have less oxidation. It's more so has to do with new layers being exposed constantly, so it's not having time to oxidize. And the stuff that is getting oxidized, it's broken down, and you don't really have to worry too much about looking for oxidation. Really, the only thing you're out here looking for is just fossils, so you'll have a pretty good chance if you look in creek beds, stuff like that, areas where it's rather large, and you will have lots and lots of fossils. This layer in particular, this bluish layer, is what you really want to look for, because as these streams erode through it, you're going to find more fish fossils than anything. If you're out here looking for anything other than fish, you'll have a pretty good chance if you stay away from these layers. But, oh, actually, speaking of that, right there is our first fossil of the day. That is a Dunkleosteus tooth. Huh. That's the first one I've actually found out here. That's really neat. But yeah, I guess that's a good example of showing you these fossils. They don't come in this layer exactly. They're going to be in between the shale, and I guess this is limestone, or like a dolosiltide or something like that. It's kind of different. It's pretty neat what you can find out here. Yeah, I'm actually going to try and find the tip of this. That is really cool. Here's a pretty decent sized tree. You can see it right through here. And this one's in the water still. You can see it right through there. Those are pretty common. You're going to find a lot of trees. Still looking for that tip. Hopefully I can find it. You can also find fairly large chunks of pyrite. This one's pretty large. You can see that gold shimmer. Yeah, they've got a lot of weight to them. This one's actually this one's pretty large for its size. But yeah, it's pretty neat. A lot of the fossils tend to be pyritized as well. So if you see any gold shimmering, you might be closer to pyrite areas. Like right here's another big chunk. You can see them. And we're just right below the blue layer. You can see it right through there. And there's multiple blue layers throughout this entire formation. You can see them up to there. Here is another piece of wood with what looks like might be fish scales. You can kind of see them. Yeah, that's pretty neat. I might keep on. I might hold on to that. Here's another tree, which is fairly well preserved. These are carbonized, so you're not really going to find anything petrified out in these parts, but there's chances of ammonoids, shells, gastropods, stuff like that, just oceanic stuff. The reason why there's wood is because a lot of it's more like driftwood, so it floated out onto the ocean floor and sunk down into these low oxygen anaerobic environments, which preserved them and carbonized a lot of the material. If it wasn't for that low oxygen environment, we would probably find more fossils, but this does fine. You'll find quite a bit of stuff, as you can see from the start of the video. I did find a tooth segment to a Dunkleosteus, which is very cool, to say the least. But yeah, if you stay to these banks and look for these bluish shales, you'll have pretty good luck. They're going to be right at the part where they meet. So if you stay around that area, you'll find some pretty good stuff. I know right in this area right here, or it might have been right there. You can see where I flipped a rock. This was 2 days ago. I found a skull fragment to a Denychithylus or something like that. But that's also an anthrodire, and it's pretty neat, all the stuff you can find out in this area. As long as you hold up to these little grayish areas, you should be pretty, you get lucky. You gotta be lucky in order to find stuff. But I'd say if you stay to these banks right here, you'll have a pretty good chance of finding something at least. And specifically looking for those layers of the greenish blue. You can see there's a lot of cliffs out in this area too, where this stuff erodes very quickly. And if there's another tree, it's heavily eroded though. But they leave imprints. You'll find imprints here and there. It's a pretty neat place to come out and look. The specific spot I'm at is in Powell County, Kentucky. And the New Albany shale is a member of the Ohio shale, which they're basically the same thing. I mean, they preserved almost the same stuff. I don't think that's not nothing. But yeah, it's pretty neat out here. If you ever have a chance, I would come out and give the New Albany shale a chance, because you can find some pretty cool stuff. Here is a cross section of all of the layers. And now this isn't very well preserved. You can see this actually probably wouldn't be the best thing to stand under. I would not recommend it, but I'm gonna risk it just to show you all. You can see right through here, there's a bottom one, which is this layer right here. It's gonna have a bluish color, and when they're exposed like this, they're gonna start to turn more of a red. But you can see right here, if we get really close, you can see that bluish layer still. I wouldn't recommend, do not dig in any high wall or anything like this, because I mean, this stuff, it just collapses so easily. I mean, look at this. This is fresh. I'd say this fell 2 days ago, maybe a day ago. I mean, and that would have killed me if it would have landed on me. So this is not, I would not recommend getting anywhere near these high walls unless you see something and it's about to fall out. And I would recommend just trying not to go anywhere near them. Like right here, you can see a pretty nice piece of pyrite. Well, thought it was going to be a pretty nice piece, but it kind of, it's not very it's not that good. So, see, usually half the time, it's not even worth it. So, this is just more of me showing you what it looks like. And you're going to have multiple layers of this, but see, you're going to want to stick to more towards the bottom of the formation because these are the thickest layers you'll find, at least in this area. I know the layers change the further you go, but yeah, this is what you want to look for in creeks like this with fairly exposed beds. And you can see kind of how these rocks are jointed. They are not jointed very well. I mean, this goes on the entire way. They're very cubic, and they will slide off. Like right there, that's a big slide, and it stays pretty flat. And you can see all of these planes right here. Like right here's a really big slide that must have happened not too long ago. But yeah, I would try and avoid any high walls you might find unless they aren't like this. This is a dangerous high wall. I would not get anywhere near that. These creeks stay pretty shallow. I mean, this is about as deep as they get. And it rained relatively recently, so honestly, that gets even more shallow than this. I would say it's more like this. So a lot of these creeks, if they're exposing this layer in particular, aren't going to be very deep, at least from my experience, because it's just, it stays pretty flat. You're not going to have any spots where you're going to have like heavy erosion because it's all breaking pretty evenly. You can see like there might be like a few spots. It stays pretty shallow, and you have a lot of activity up through here. I will show you later on the video at the end of this all that I've found in this area. I've found some pretty good specimens, stuff that I would honestly say could go in a museum. And I've actually had to take one of them out to the Cincinnati Museum to have it looked at because it was a possible new species. And that's the thing with a lot of these Devonian shales is they aren't very well mapped. So you have a very good likelihood if you find anything out of the ordinary of it being a new species. Because that's a majority of what new species are found is through people like me who enjoy coming out and looking for fossils. It's not really actual paleontologists unless they're the ones out here looking in particular. So I encourage all people to find your own little area. Make sure to ask property owners and come out and look at areas, because every new fossil is new data and it just helps science. This is a very big piece of pyrite right here. But then again, right underneath a high wall, so I would not recommend touching any of that. Here's something I've never seen before. This is new. It comes out all the way over here. I'm not really for certain what that is. I got a little bit of it out. Might have just been something growing off this tree. I don't really know for certain. It's kind of interesting. Something I've never seen before. It's kind of hard to see. Looks kind of like a piece of wood, but Honestly, I've never seen anything like that. It's very round, kind of looks like a peanut. You can see it. Yeah, I don't know what that is. This rock's too heavy to pick up. Once you start getting towards the bottom of the formation, however, is when you start seeing less fossils. So, like this rock right here, it's pretty solid. It's still shale, but it's a lot darker as well. It's almost black. You can see right there. It's very dark. I personally wouldn't recommend looking for fossils in this area because I just never find anything. But, you can go ahead and look. I've never seen a single fossil, and this stuff stays pretty sediment free, so you'd be able to see a lot of fossils if there were any. But through here specifically, I don't really ever find anything. You can see right there, it kind of flakes similar to flint, but it's just too hard. It's not worth digging through. It stays pretty compacted. You can see right through here, this is where the high walls start getting pretty high up. But yeah, you can try looking here. I would not recommend it though, just because there's not really anything in it. You can't dig through it. You probably would have to have a concrete saw just to do anything remotely close to that. But yeah, that's about it for the creek fossil hunting. I'll be showing you all the stuff I found when I get back to the house. It's about a 45-minute drive. I will see you then.